Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Ryan Christensen, and I'm here to actually talk to you about martial arts. Anybody out there know that I'm actually a second-degree black belt in martial arts? Anybody know that? Did you know that? Okay. Anybody here have any experience with anybody, loved one, family member, who does martial arts or did do martial arts? Okay. So I think I started taking martial arts in like 86, 87, I think right when Karate Kid came out. And that was actually, believe it or not, a really popular time for people to start taking martial arts. Kind of at the tail end of the Bruce Lee, big kung fu movie action Hollywood thing. So what we saw is a lot of people started taking martial arts in the late 80s, and then it kind of dipped down a lot. And it's funny because when I'm in school and people found out that I did martial arts, one of the most common questions I would get is, can you beat me up? Can you beat me up? I mean, literally, that's the most common question, especially from younger kids. I mean, if you think about, 8, 9, 10, 12, 15-year-old guys, and, they got a little ego going, so they kind of want to know, can you beat me up? And that question that people ask is kind of a litmus test, an indicator for me, for people that either don't understand martial arts or have a little bit of an inkling as far as what martial arts is about. The answer to the question, by the way, is yes. Yes, I can. I can beat you up, okay? So we can get that out of the way right now, okay? And sometimes I see people get kind of at ease once I tell them that, because I'm like, yeah, if you were wondering that, yes, I can beat you up, okay? But that's not what it's about, right? And what I do now is that I actually have a lot of clients, and I have like nieces and nephews, and friends of friends and stuff who come to me kind of and ask me and say, hey Ryan, I'm thinking about putting my kids into martial arts. What do you think about that? And I always tell them I think it's fantastic because I firmly believe that doing martial arts for as long as I did is kind of one of the things that kind of gave me some of the skills that I have now. And one of those skills and one of the things that I see, especially in the younger generation now with kids who have difficult, and it's tough for them to kind of focus in class and everything, is the discipline aspect. And when you look at Eastern and Western mentality and then the way that people in the East do things, Eastern philosophy, if you will, probably the best way I can kind of explain the differences and how black and white it is that if you know anything about, I'm a big history buff too. So I watch lots of documentaries about World War II and Vietnam. And one of the most interesting things that I do is I kind of tend to focus sometimes on the Pacific theater of World War II. Anybody who knows anything about the Pacific theater, Battle of Okinawa, Marianas, Saipan, all that good stuff. Do you know how few Japanese prisoners were taken alive? I don't have the numbers in front of me, okay, so I apologize, I don't have the numbers, but it was very, very few. So when you think of the Western mentality, of the GIs, you see all those stories of, Band of Brothers and all these great stories of these guys, grandparents and great-grandparents who fought in this war. They wanted to live, right? Eastern mentality is I want to survive, I want to get back to my family. That's not the case with Eastern philosophy. So with the Eastern philosophy, if you dishonor your family, they wanted you to kill yourself. Seppuku is a ritualistic suicide where you disembowel yourself, and a lot of times you end up getting your head lopped off by a colleague, which, by the way, is an honor for that individual to lop their heads off. Have you ever seen the movie Last Samurai? The one guy does the same thing, gets chopped off, and it was very difficult for the Westerner to understand how that could be an honor. So looking at the kids and the younger generation and instilling the discipline is when I was in class, and this is kind of a quick way of telling good martial arts and bad martial arts places to take, is that you didn't sit with your hands, you didn't kind of pick your nose, you weren't talking. If somebody asked, we called everybody by the last name, so it wasn't, hey Rich, hey Jerry, how you doing, did you see that movie? No, if you had a question, you raised your hand, you raised it as straight as you possibly could. If our sensei asked us to go get the mats, we ran physically as fast as our bodies could carry us, and we stood as straight as we possibly could. And for any of you, and I know a lot of you obviously work with teachers, thinking about 7, 8, and 9-year-olds sitting still for an hour, raising their hand as straight as they possibly can, and not joking around and poking each other when they're sitting next to each other, that's an accomplishment in and of itself. But when you think about that discipline and honor that it instills upon you, and the last thing I'll leave you with before I end is the idea that one of our black belts in our association was a frail 65-year-old lady with MS who could barely do one push-up. And then you had black belts who could break through, boards and do 100 push-ups. the fact that she was able to reach a black belt is because she was able to overcome those things and put herself and be able to do things that she didn't think she was able to do.